like to talk.
You want to talk?
You're listening to Black Fawn Distro's Takeover Tuesday, the official podcast of Black Fawn Distribution, broadcasting live across the planet and retransmitted on all major streaming platforms. Tonight's program is brought to you in part by Rollins Brewery's Hellas Lager, Deadly Grounds Coffee, Twisted Teas, and of course Canada's #1 genre film company, Black Fawn Distribution. You wanted the best. Well, they didn't make it, so here's what you get.
It's really not that bad.
You are going to hell.
Here's your host, Benner from Black Fawn Distro.
All right, everyone. How's everyone doing out there? My name's Benner from Black Fawn Distro, and we are back with another episode of Takeover Tuesday. There I am on the screen. Welcome back. It's 2022. Happy New Year to everyone. Hope everyone had a great holiday, and hopefully you can hear me out there in the internet world. We've got a great program here for you tonight. We are broadcasting live, of course, to Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube, and then retransmitting on all the major streaming platforms, of course, including Apple Podcast and Spotify. Make sure you like, follow, and share and subscribe wherever you can, whatever platform you're listening on. We'd appreciate the support. And of course, it helps us out. We're not going to lie, but it also helps out our guests as well and the projects and the super cool projects that they're working on. So quick shout out to our sponsors, of course, Wellington Brewery's Hellas Lager, Deadly Grounds Coffee, and Twisted Teas. Thank you so much for your support last year and all of 2021. And we do appreciate the continued support in 2022 as well. So we've got a great program for you tonight. First show of 2022, as I mentioned, and we figured we'd do a little bit of a 2-for-1 tonight. So we've got directors Gabriel Carrer and Reese Eveneshen in the house, virtually, of course, but they're here to talk about their new home invasion flick, For the Sake of Vicious. The film is currently available on VOD and Blu-ray, but it also has its streaming premiere this week on the almighty Shudder. So January 6th, set your calendars, set your clocks, set your timers, set your alarms. Shudder is Shudder exclusive, For the Sake of Vicious, dropping on January 6th, which is Thursday. We've got both dudes currently in the green room giving me the thumbs up, so we're happy to have them, and we're going to jump into a whole bunch of stuff tonight, but before we get there, there's a few things that we just want to talk about, and you know, there's a lot of things going on, obviously, in the world right now. We are still in the pandemic, of course, but we didn't really want to talk too much about that because we thought we'd get rid of it in 2021, but we're still kind of in it right now. So unfortunately, we're still dealing with that. However, we have some cool stuff to talk about. And before we get there, before we talk to our guests tonight, Gabe and Reese in the house, let's hit the news.
Top story. Top story.
We'll give you the world. We'll give you the world.
This may be the most important decision of your life.
Can't stand the heat. Get out of the kitchen.
Any special message for all the kids watching at home?
You can't stand the heat. Get out of the kitchen.
Top story.
And remember, we care. We care.
There are certain inherent risks that come with the territory.
Top story. Top story.
We'll give you the world.
Top story.
Okay, and we're back with another edition of the news. Like I said, it is a happy new year, happy 2022 to everyone. I am wearing my purple tie today to do this news update because I figured, hey, it was fitting, and plus going well with the blazer. If you are tuning in on YouTube and Facebook and Twitch and Twitter, you can see me, you're welcome. And if you can't, and if you're tuning in on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, well, that's just one more incentive for you to tune in live each week to see my news get up. So, but let's jump in. I don't want to take up too much time because we've got like I said, we've got a full pack show tonight. But our top story tonight is, listen, we're still in a pandemic. Sucks. So we almost made it out of 2021, but guess what? Omicron, whatever, that bad guy from the Transformers movie showed up. And we didn't plan on this either, but everyone in Ontario right now is kind of stuck at home a little bit. We've got kind of a lockdown. So this is just our announcement to say we did not plan to have the directors of a home invasion film on our first show and anticipate us being in sort of a lockdown. So just so you guys know, it wasn't planned, but we're really excited to have everyone on the show. Of course, Gabriel Carrer Reese Eveneshen coming up just after the break here. Now, we've got quite a few things to talk about on the news today. First and foremost, or I shouldn't say, I guess, second most, we've got Infamous Horror, which is a really awesome horror community operating out of Montreal. And we partnered up with them to actually launch a contest, which is running the whole month of January. And I'll just throw it up on the screen. We're kind of sponsoring it with them and offering a really, really wicked Black Fawn Distro prize pack. So make sure you check them out. It's really, really easy to enter. If we throw it up on the screen here, basically all you have to do is like and comment on their post on their Facebook. So if you just go to Facebook, find Infamous Horror, and you just read their post, and it's got the instructions there as well. Subscribe to Infamous Horror on YouTube, as well as Black Fawn Distro on YouTube, and then share the post that they have on Facebook, and you'll be entered to win this grand prize pack from Black Fawn Distro, which includes a whole whack of Blu-rays and DVDs, as well as a Black Fawn Distro toque, trucker hat, woven patch, and a bag of our awesome coffee, which we partnered up with Deadly Grounds for last year. And of course, our hats and all of our merchandise is made by Twisted Tees also. So check out their website, check out their Facebook, go find that post, enter to win, and they will be announcing the winners, I think, at the end of well, I guess the contest ends at the end of January, so they'll be announcing the winners in February. Early February is my best guess. So moving right along, we've got a quick announcement to say. Myself, I'm going to be on the next episode of the Movie Madhouse, which is a podcast run by our good friend Robert Bellamy. And basically, he always calls me up sometimes and asks me if I want to come on and voice my opinions about other films that are maybe not horror related. So he asked me to come on. I'll be on the next episode, which is January 10th, Monday. So next Monday, Movie Madhouse, look him up. You can catch the podcast as well on all the major platforms. And we'll be talking about what we thought of Spider-Man No Way Home and Matrix Resurrections. So two fairly different sequels. I'll just leave it at that, but make sure you tune in if you want my thoughts and opinions on stuff that's not horror, and looking forward to hear my voice even more than you already have tonight. You can tune in to Rob's podcast, Movie Madhouse, next Monday on January 6th. Now, we also always do a physical media review, and this week I thought, hey, you know what better movie to review than For the Sake of Vicious. This is the Blu-ray release put out in Canada by Raven Banner, and of course, good friends with the Raven Banner guys. Sean and the whole team over there, I know they put a lot of work into this physical release, and of course, it's got a sweet slipcase, as you can see, different artwork underneath, and we'll get to Gabe and Reese will be able to tell us a little bit about this artwork on here. It's super cool. I can't remember exactly where you can get it. I know Sunrise has copies of these, so you can probably order it online, and as well as through Raven Banner, I believe, as well. But we'll get the details from the directors of the project after the break. And before we get going, of course, we have to do our weekly or bi-weekly, or whatever you want to call it, our chicken sandwich report. Here is me eating a giant chicken sandwich, as you can see in the top left-hand corner. This was a recommendation from our last guest, Chad Archibald, who is my boss too, right? So anyway, he told me Tall Tree Sandwich Company out of Hamilton. You got to go check them out. They got a sandwich that's crazy. Our fried chicken sandwich report, of course, is a report where I go out and try a chicken sandwich and tell you how good it is. And why do we do that? Well, because fried chicken is just so damn tasty. And if you get that reference, let me know in the comments below. So anyway, we tracked out to Hamilton. We had one of these sandwiches. As you can see, look at the size of that thing. It's amazing. It's chicken everywhere. You couldn't even keep the chicken in the sandwich. It was like, and also I got to have a shout out here. Tons of pickles. Tons and tons of pickles in the sandwich. Lots of sauce. It was really good. Crisp breading, but nothing too greasy. So it was light, and also like just a lot of sandwich. So I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to say, look, it's 4.5 out of 5. I couldn't quite get to the 5 out of 5, but it's tied for first place. And of course, let's look at the standings right now. Fried chicken sandwiches, the fried chicken sandwich report from Black Fawn Distro. We still have Coco Chicken in the lead, but also tied for first. Tall Tree Sandwich Company going in there at number 2. But both sandwiches are rated a 4.5 out of 5. And of course, Zinger Chick with the bronze medal currently with 4 out of 5, and everything else below. And of course, we only do a top 10, which means that Subway's chicken sandwich did not make the cut this week. So wasn't too impressed with that one. And it's being deleted. So I apologize for that. Sorry, Subway. We'll maybe try and give you a second chance down the road. But look, if you're in Hamilton, Tall Tree Sandwich Co., check them out. If you're in Guelph, check out Coco Chicken and Zinger Chick, both local family-run businesses that could use your support, especially now since a lot of things are kind of closed down. Give them a call, look them up. And if you like fried chicken sandwiches as much as I do, you'll probably dig them as well. Now, moving on to our guest tonight. Look, let's talk about For the Sake of Vicious. This is a really, really, really wicked, awesome movie. Gabriel Carrer, Reese Eveneshen, they're the co-directors of the film, and it premiered at Fantasia International Film Festival and went on to screen at other such prestigious festivals such as Sitges in Spain and Fright Fest in the UK. It's been busting up audiences around the world, and guess what? Business is about to pick up because it's actually debuting on Shudder, as I mentioned before, this Thursday, January 6th. Now, Carrer has directed such Canadian genre hits as The Demolisher in The House of Flies and If a Tree Falls, while Reese has also directed the dystopian sci-fi flick Defective, as well as Dead Genesis. So they recently teamed up to direct For the Sake of Vicious together, which we're going to get into in just a moment. But this movie, let me tell you, it's a bloody, unrelenting action flick starring Laura Burke, Nick Smith, and Colin Paradine. It's got tons of action, blood, violence, adrenaline, motorcycles, you name it. It's got everything. It's currently sitting at an impressive 83% on Rotten Tomatoes. This flick is an insane wild ride, and it's definitely one I recommend that you take as soon as you can. So let's take a quick peek at the trailer, just so you know what we're going to be talking about in the next within the next hour, and over the next hour, sorry. And look, we've got Gabe and Reese on the other side, and we're going to get to them right after this.
You raped my daughter.
You beat a guy half to death. Broke into my house, made me lie to my kid.
Please. I'm not here to hurt you.
This is Charlotte, right? You're the dad.
Got someone on the way.
They're not gonna let us leave. I don't know what to do right now, but something is happening that is completely out of our control. I can't do this by myself.
All right, and we're back, and hey, that was For the Sake of Vicious, and welcome to the program, co-directors of this awesome movie, Gabriel Carrer and Reese Eveneshen. Guys, welcome to the program. Thanks for making the time, man, and thanks for swinging in. How you guys doing?
Good, man. Thanks for having us.
No problem.
Yeah, man. Thanks.
So happy New Year. Hope you guys had an awesome sort of holiday as much as you could. And of course, had lots of holiday eats and lots of candy and all the stuff you're not supposed to have. And do you have any New Year's resolutions that you're currently working on right now?
Oh boy. Dave, you go first.
Well, it's funny you're like talking about crispy chicken sandwiches, and
I've stopped eating that stuff and I'm eating salads, and I just literally had a salad 25 minutes before you sent that. And there's one thing on the list that I haven't seen was Mary Brown's, and my girlfriend swears by their new crispy sandwiches.
Okay, it's on the list, man. You're the second person to recommend that. So I've got shout out to Jason Rockman as well. He recommended that I go try out the it's like the vegan or the vegetarian non-chicken chicken sandwich at Pizza. He told me to check that one out. So I got that on my list, and I got Mary Brown's as well. And so I'll make sure I get those in over the next couple of weeks. So I'll put that down as your recommendation as well. And you got to watch a future episode, see if I review it.
Lots of salads.
So there won't be any salad report. I'll tell you that much. That's my that's my New Year's resolution, just so everyone knows. But listen, thanks for joining the program. I know you guys got a lot going on this week. We're doing kind of the sort of, this is the second leg of the press tour for this film. Filmed in I think 2020 or 2019. Around
2019. Yeah,
2019. It dropped at Fantasia 2020, and then of course it got released last year. But now it's being picked up and it's going fully. Is it on Shudder? Is it all the Shudder territories, or is it just Canada and the US right now? Do you guys know?
It's just the US, UK, Italy, Australia, and New Zealand for now, and it'll be Canada hopefully later this year. I know it is coming to Shudder Canada. We just don't know exactly when, because somebody else has the streaming rights in Canada right now. So
right. And of course, hey, if you haven't been able to check it out, as you can see just behind me, right where are we? I always get this screwed up right here. For the sake of Vicious, the Blu-ray is available. Do you guys know? I know it's available in Sunrise. Do you know where else it's available, where people might be able to pick it up right now?
Cinema. Well, there's an independent retailer. I think it's only. Is it only in Ontario? Cinema
yeah,
One?
Cinema One. Yeah. You can order it from Cinema One. Some of them have it on the shelves. That fancy copy of it, I'm pretty sure right now, Raven Banner is probably your best bet. Their website, their store has it. Right. I know they had some really good deals going on. I'm not sure if that's still going on. But you can also pick up just the regular Blu-ray, which has all the same special features through Amazon and all that. So.
Okay, cool. Well, like I said, it's totally a movie worth tracking down and checking out. I've known you guys for a while. You guys have worked together off and on, like for over a decade now, and we're going to get to that in a little bit for sure. Just throwing it out to the audience, if you're tuning in right now, if you're live, if you're tuning in on Facebook or Twitch, Twitter, or YouTube, make sure you throw down your comments in the comment section. We're going to get to them throughout the broadcast, and we can post them online or during the broadcast live. So if you got a question for Gabe or Reese about For the Sake of Vicious or any of the other projects that they've worked on in the past, feel free to drop them in the comments and we will try and get to them as we can. So now, before we get to anything else, let's talk about this film, because you guys, this is the first film you've co-directed together.
Yeah.
And how did that come to be? Because you've worked on various projects for each other over the years, and what kind of brought this project up to the forefront and said, you know what, we're gonna, because Gabe, you came up with the story for this, and then Reese, you wrote the script, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
So you both were there from day one, and is that kind of a reason where you decided to kind of both jump behind the camera and go for a ride on this one?
Yeah, like the story was very different than what it's turned out to be. You know, like originally it took place in the summer. It was a SWAT team invading the house during a blackout. Completely different. And then, you know, just during one of our lunches at the mall, we just started talking. We were both coming off, I think you were coming off Defective. Was it? You were off Defective. I was off Demolisher. And it was just like two roads just meet. And we were feeling the same kind of energy, you know, kind of not angry, maybe a little bit of anger from our last films and a little mixed emotions. So we kind of just melted together. And then he took this one-page outline I had, not even, and pumped out a script in like 2 weeks. And then it was, what was it, like almost a year back and forth with you and Raven Banner?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was just something about the story when he pitched it to me at the mall. And I mean, Phil's like the master at pitching a million stories a minute. And there was something about this specific story. And again, it's funny because they're barely identical. Like if I still have that one pager that he sent me, and other than maybe the first paragraph, that's about the only thing that stayed in the movie. But there was just something about it when he first told me about it that I went, yeah, I think this would be a lot of fun to write, and it just caught me at the right moment. And I know that we had, as you pointed out in your intro, like we've always helped each other out on our movies since 2008 now, I think. And it was just one of those moments where I went, I think it'd be a lot of fun to write something for you. Directing came later down the line. In fact, that came maybe like probably less than 5 or 6 months before we shot. Originally, I was just going to write it for Gabe, and he was going to go make it, and I was going to produce it for him. And then he brainwashed me and suckered me into it.
So you mentioned 2008, because I actually, it's funny because part of this program too is I love finding out things that I'm not necessarily totally sure on. And Reese, you just mentioned you guys started working in 2008. Do you remember when you guys started working together and what project was on, and how does that collaboration, just for our listeners and our viewers, like how did that collaboration kind of evolve from when you first started to boom, you're now on Black Fawn Distro's Takeover Tuesday with me?
I remember meeting Gabe for the first time in 2007.
Was this from your Night of the Living Dead thing?
Oh God, yeah. Let's not talk about that. It doesn't matter what it was for. There was a event that was being put on by Ed Video, which is in Guelph. Was like, it still is. It's, how would you describe it? An art collective, I guess.
Yeah, a media center. If you don't, it's government funded, and if you want to make a short film or learn how to dabble into, filmmaking or any kind of narrative or documentary or media art, it's the place to go to kind of launch pad.
But back in like 2006, 2007, that was the hub for filmmakers in Guelph. That was Chad Archibald, Gabe Carrer, and and there's a bit of an age difference between all of us, but I was the youngest out of the three of us. And that's when I met all of them, was through Ed Video. And I met Gabe at one of those events that night. And I remember my first interaction is somebody pointed and said, "Oh, that's Gabe Carrer over there." And I literally waved to you from across the room. That was our first meeting. And then the first thing I worked on you with is when you did, I think it had to have been If a Tree Falls, when you guys did that in the summer.
I think it was before that. I honestly think there was some short films happening. I think there was a guy that came to Guelph to make some zombie film, and like Ryan was in it, Tom Gofton was in it. There was a whole bunch of Erica Cox was in it.
Yeah.
And I think you were involved with that. I think like there was a bunch of weird little short things that we weren't directing, but we go help out on.
Right. Well, the most significant thing I remember is If a Tree Falls.
Yeah.
Because I still have that email that he sent me.
Really?
Back in 2008.
Jesus.
Saying, hey, we don't really know each other that well, but, I've seen some of the stuff you do, and I know, we're working with Chad and all these guys, and I really think it would be fun if we all worked on this together. And that's sort of what cinched it. And somewhere in there, Benner, is when I met you as well back then.
I was going to say, if you still have that email, please tell me that's the one. That's what's in the frame behind you in your office there. That it's framed on the wall.
Yeah, I've got that email for you.
I gotta know who your service provider is, man. I gotta get that email service. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I said. I mean, I don't know how to put a particular date on certain things, especially in the Guelph film community, and now even Southern Ontario film community, because it's really expanded into like Toronto and Hamilton and around the area. Of course, thriving film community, lots of genre stuff coming out, and of course, when you guys put out or came up with the concept for The Sake of Vicious, it goes through the writing process. You've got a script. How did you determine that you were going to direct it together? And also, how did you get to the point where you were like, okay, here's how we're going to split these directing duties up when we get to set? Or was that something that was kind of done on the fly when you got there?
Well, I think the deciding that we were going to direct together came together. Well, Gabe, you were saying it from the beginning. You wanted us to co-direct it. Even when I was writing it.
Because we talked about it, we were both passionate about it, about the story when we meet and talk about the script and stuff. I said, dude, like, why don't you just direct this with me? We'll make sure, it's not some crazy film. We can kind of like share duties. We can take care of different departments. We can do a lot of pre-pro and, just have some fun and put it out there. That's kind of, I don't even remember. I think it was something like that.
Yeah, I don't think there was a definitive moment that was like, okay, we're going to do this. It just sort of gradually happened. And then I think one day in one of our meetings with Raven Banner and Avi, it was just sort of like, oh, we're both directing it now, by the way. And nobody questioned it. Nobody was ever, they're just like, okay, yeah, sounds good. So
I think the biggest thing with it is we both have made films on our own, doing multiple jobs.
Yes.
And we knew this film was extremely low budget. And by having two directors that could do more, because we know how to do other things in pre-pro and post and edit and stuff, it just made sense that from our backgrounds that we come to do this, because then we could pull it off. I wouldn't have been able to pull this off by myself. You know what I mean?
And is that just because
I can't say the same for Reese, but it was especially the pre-production. The production, we had no production designer. We were the production designers, so
And was the film always this action heavy? Like, I mean, this is a nonstop movie. Like, it is. Like, I mean, it's funny because I know there's a lot of invasion movies and there's a lot of there's a lot of genre stuff out there, but the reviews for this movie, I think, are spot on. And like when I said, look, you're sitting at 83% Rotten Tomatoes, the majority of reviews are positive, and the majority of the reviews really get what this movie is, which is a somewhat of a an established setup, and then it's just nonstop action, pretty much all the way through, chaos, violence, brutality, whatever you want to call it. It's got everything in here. Was that always in the script, or was that something that kind of did that kind of develop over time, or how when did that start? Like, when did that kind of full picture of that film and the action and the stunt work and the fights and all that stuff, when did that really come into the script? Was it from the start, or was it from?
It's always been there. Yeah,
right.
It was there right from the
beginning. More, and he can elaborate. There was more violence and more action.
Yeah, the script is way more violent and brutal than what we were able to actually get on screen. So, but like if you look at the script now, our shooting draft, the last 35 to 40 pages is just like chock full of description of action. Like, it's just, there's no dialogue. It's just block after block of very descriptive action. We knew exactly what it was going to be when we talked about it. I mean, when Gabe, whatever, first pitched that idea to me back in the day, action was always a very prevalent part of the third act of the movie. That was always going to be the major, like, we're going to go full bore. And then I don't mind saying so. I think I may have turned it up to 11 a little bit more than what was originally there. Because I said, well, if we're going to go all the way. Because there was sort of this feeling between us that let's not worry about anything. Like, because at the time we had no idea what it was going to do. We would have never guessed that it was be where it is now. And we didn't really have anybody holding us back. And we were kind of, thinking to ourselves, sometimes with some indie films, they don't feel like they go all the way when it comes to violence. Like, there's always this feels like there's just something holding them back a little bit. And I said, no, screw it. Let's just go full bore. Let's go full tilt. And let's make this as brutal as we possibly can. And the script, like Gabe was saying, is way more violent actually than what we were able to get, mostly just due to budget and time. But it's pretty close. It's pretty close.
Awesome.
It could be a little gorier.
Yeah, the ending was a lot different. Well, not a lot, but I mean, it like, time and money, we had to change the ending of the film location wise, kind of last minute. Originally in the script, it was a flooding basement of her house. And the two, Nick and it would have been James and Colin would have been down there fighting in water and stuff. But
yeah, it was a much more elaborate ending that maybe was a little too grandiose for the time we had. But we were super close to shooting it. We had to change it, I think, the day before, just because we ran out of time.
It was literally the night.
Yeah, it was the night before that we were going to go do all this stuff in the basement, and it just came down to time, money, how exhausted everybody was. And we literally made up the, I don't want to spoil it, but
no spoilers, because people might not have seen the film yet.
What is essentially the ending now when you get to it was sort of made up on the day, on the spot. So that was the only thing we had to do.
So, and let's talk about the setting of this movie, because it's a home invasion film. Obviously, it's got tons of action, like I said, and we're gonna talk about all the fight choreography and the stunt work coming up as well. But talk to us about the setting. It's very, very claustrophobic film. It's kind of a one setting, esque. I mean, there's other parts of the film, of course, but mostly the main setting is this house, and you destroy the shit out of this house. Talk to us about that. Like, how did like it wasn't a set, right? It was an actual house.
Yeah, it was an actual house. We really the goal at the beginning was for us to build a set, just because we knew the extent of the damage, and the script had been written to certain specifications that Gabe and I had discussed about. This is what the layout of the house should be to make it work. And when it became clear that we couldn't build the house just for financial reasons and time, and we were the production designers now, we kind of had this mad scramble to find this place. And we literally got it at the last minute, I think maybe 3 weeks before we started shooting, from a property developers outside of town. They had bought this house and they're like, we're tearing it down. We're putting in these new bungalows. We'll rent the house to you and you can literally do whatever you want to it. And I said, are you sure? They said, absolutely. I said, because we are going to destroy the fuck out of this house. Like, we're blood wall, like, we're going to destroy it. And they said, yeah, no, you can do whatever you want to it and you can leave it in the condition that you destroyed it. So a lot of that claustrophobia is just by nature of that was just the house we got and it was perfect. And I mean, Gabe, you can talk about, we had to change a lot on the fly too, from what the script was versus the house we had.
Yeah. Like this summer of 2019. Jeez, that old already. The summer of 2019, we were in Reese's kitchen rehearsing this, just him and I, like the action sequences, like, grabbing each other, pushing each other against the wall and on the ground, and just kind of with this house, with this large house in mind. With, it wasn't even a large house. It was what was the vision, like a bungalow or something? Yeah, it was a bit more of a spacious bungalow. For sure. And this was, I haven't even seen it. Like, honestly, when we walked into this house for the first time, I never even seen a house like this before. It was just so small and cramped. Like, the stairwell was abnormally small, even for an older home. Like, it was really weird. So we had to adjust everything. And I remember when we were bringing in the furniture, just him and I, we'd be talking about, okay, we put down the sofa that we just brought in and then end up talking, okay, so remember that scene? Well, this is going to have to completely change now. Yeah. So that was a challenge. That was, when you think about it, that was probably
And when they were like, listen, you can do whatever you want to this house, did you get super excited for that third act when you're like, man, we can flood the fucking basement now?
Yeah, pretty much. Funny enough, though, we couldn't actually use the basement at that house. It wouldn't have worked for the location. It was so old and decrepit that we were actually planning on shooting in somebody else's basement altogether. but everything else we were super excited for. I think that the scary thing when we got the house, though, was just thinking, how the hell are we going to fit our cast and crew in here? Like, he's saying it, but until you actually stood in that house, it's really hard to grasp how small it was. Like, it was ridiculously tiny and so hot in there too.
Yeah,
once you got everybody,
one in the trailer and one in the house.
That's right. And then that weird one that was off of the kitchen. They had built the bathroom off of the kitchen that didn't have a doorway. It just had a little curtain that you pulled.
Yeah. Well, listen, just by talking like this, we got a couple of questions actually about this house. And funny enough, so I'm just going to throw them up on the screen. Thanks everyone for your comments. Keep them coming. If you do have a question for Gabe or Reese, co-directors of For the Sake of Vicious, throw them in the comment section for whatever platform you're listening to us on. I think Facebook and YouTube pull the most. I think Twitch does too. Yeah, please post your comments. We'll get them up during the broadcast. But let's take a look at a few right now. We got a quick comment here from Christian B. Hello, Reese and Gabriel. I love the film. Can you tell us about the location? Of course, we just talked about this, but just wanted to pull attention to the last part of this comment. I love how it's essentially another character for the film, which is totally true. Like, it does. It's like a lot of great genre films, the setting or the thing, like the house or the location, becomes a character in the film that other characters kind of have to interact with. And was that always kind of what you were thinking as far as like getting a location like that?
Well, I mean, in the script, it was definitely a major character for sure, which is why we were trying to design it to a very specific design we had in mind. But just by, as I explained, just by the nature of how our production was going, the house itself, we kind of had to adapt to it. It's like we walked into a character, we found a character, and now had to adjust our story to work within the character because of how important the house is to the movie. So, I mean, it was just a streak of luck that it looked the way it did and the way it was built and how tiny and confined, and that kitchen and that hallway and the upstairs. It kind of did a lot of the work for us, and it's been cool to see all the reviews saying like, oh man, look how great the house is, and like as Christian here is saying, look at how much of a character it is, and we're sort of there going, we can only take sort of credit for, like, it's really kind of just fell into it. So, you know?
So a good quick follow-up question here from the OHFP friends of the show, longtime viewers. Did you shoot chronologically then, the script chronologically, if you destroyed so much of the house as you were going along?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. In a nutshell. Yeah, we did. We saved most of the action and big stuff for the end. We got the bulk of the drama stuff out of the way in the first week, and then our final 2 weeks was pretty much just the last half of the film. So we tried to go room to room. So we started with, okay, we'll destroy this room. Now we'll move to this room and destroy it. Now we'll move to this room and destroy it. The hardest one that we kept having to come back to was that damn kitchen.
Right.
Which just got progressively more and more worse. And it also shrunk the amount of space we can shoot in it by the end, to the point where it was like, you can literally only film in this little section here because everything around it is completely destroyed or soaked in blood. Everything was covered in blood.
We didn't even worry about continuity in the kitchen when the action was taking place. Usually it's continuity is something you worry about, but when this is going on in the house, like we had toasters and stuff on the counter and stuff on the fridge. But I remember I was one morning going, and Reese and I would always be the first ones on set, talking, going through everything, and we'd be fidgeting around. I remember every morning I'd go and try to make things how they were, in the last, knowing what the next scene is and fixing how things were before. And then at one point, I think I gave up. I was like, no one's gonna notice. I'm wasting time with alphabet magnets on the fridge, putting them where they were.
You might as well just make it, at that point, you might as well just make it more messy, like more destroyed, because
Oh, and I remember too, us all fussing about the tables in the kitchen, the little kitchen dining room set. Yeah. Like, oh, where the hell are the chairs supposed to be seated? You watch the movie and nobody cares. Like, it's just like shit that you worry about. It's like, that
table, man, that table,
that stupid table. So.
I've caught them. But, awesome. So let's just jump through a bunch of other. We got a great viewership tonight. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Of course, Happy New Year to everyone out there. Let's just whip through a bunch of these things. But of course, first and foremost, we mentioned him earlier, but the immortal Jason Rockman, phenomenal movie, guys, loved it, proud to own it. Jason's also thrown in a link on the Facebook to the Raven Banner store, so that's actually where you can get the For the Sake of Vicious Blu-ray. You can pick it up from Raven Banner directly, or like I mentioned before, Sunrise, as well as Cinema One. There's Cinema One in Hamilton as well. Tracy's just piping in here, just saying, yeah, there is one in Hamilton if everyone needs to, if nobody knows. Of course, good friend of the show, our only two-time guest, the awesome Heather Buckley, all the way from New Jersey, says nice. The mall. And but also, Heather, if you're still listening, it's actually, I hate to correct you, but it's actually the fucking mall. Let me see here, who else we got. Okay, so, and a couple of things. Actually, and we're going to get to this a little bit, but Alexander, of course, a longtime viewer, says Demolisher is one of my all-time favorites. And of course, he says, damn, that sounds delicious. I'm thinking he's talking about the fried chicken sandwich, maybe not the fake blood in the house, but who knows, right? To each his own.
Yep.
And you know what? Good thing that Chad's watching. So I'm under the gun now. But hey, guys, heroes, good to see you guys for sure. And John McIsaac, again, Gabe, backing you up too. Mary Brown's Big Mary is a solid. So fried chicken sandwich recommendation there as well. Okay, so let's jump into a couple of things here that we haven't actually talked about yet. And that's, and Rockman has a question here that I think is a great segue, which is that the music is phenomenal in the film, of course. Can we talk about how the score came together? And go, because it really does add a lot to this film, especially as the carnage gets more and more crazier as the film progresses, right?
Take it away.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, who wants to go? I know it's just like I should have pointed. I throw you up on the. There you go. I threw you up on the screen.
There he is. There you go. Go for it.
Yeah, no. Originally, there wasn't going to be a score, and then we were looking for tracks, and usually you find artists online that music you like, and you get them to put it in, or you kind of do your own little bit. Reese knows this, I'm sure, in the past with his films, like you make it yourself. But we talked for a while about not having much score in this at all, and just having like eerie and ambience and sound design. I wasn't going to do, none of us, we weren't essentially going to have any composer. There wasn't going to be like a soundtrack or a score, right? And then I forget what happened, but I had some stuff catalog that I was working on a year prior, moody things, and I think, I don't know, Reese, I don't even remember. Did you heard some of it and you're like, why don't you try, when you were in the edit, I sent you, what's the story again?
Well, it's like Gabe said, when we were writing, well, after the script was written and we were kind of doing some of the preliminary work, we sort of like this idea of playing it super straight and not having any score whatsoever. And then when we were shooting, we were like, maybe it'd be fun to punctuate little moments here and there. But in pre-production, we had talked about if there was going to be any score, that Gabe would do it, because obviously he's got a cool musical background, and I like the stuff that he had done before. So as he said, he had kind of cataloged some little bits of music that he was working on, that he had from previous stuff or stuff that he was doing for this movie that we would listen to on set. And when it came time to do the first edit, our very, very first cut, when I sat down to do it, he had sent me just a bunch of random stuff he had. And I just started tinkering around and putting it here and putting it there and putting it here and putting it there. Before I knew it, I'd scored most of the movie with his stuff. And I was like, oh, this actually works a lot better with some of this music. Like it really brings up the tension, because sometimes when you're in pre-production, the version that you have in your head is never the version you end up making. So maybe if we had shot the version that we had, it might have worked without score. But once he kind of started piecing it together and saw what we had, it was like, no, we really need this score. And then it became sort of a full frontal attack on Gabe here to be like, all right, like, let's score this thing. And it's just interesting that we went from a movie that was going to have no score to a movie that's now 80 minutes long and has probably 70 minutes worth of original score that Gabe did. That was a lot of fun. And I think that was probably one of my favorite parts, was working with you on that score, because when we were doing post, it was right at the start of the COVID pandemic. So we couldn't see each other. So we would just be communicating with each other through text and phone calls and FaceTime. And I would send him clips, and then he would send me, okay, try this. And then I could put it in and then record my screen. And then he'd be like, oh, I'm going to change it. Or you remember this. I would literally be on the phone with you and be like, okay, it's got to sound like this. And I'd go, boom, 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 boom. But it was like, oh, yeah. No, I've got that, dude. I've got it. So it was a lot of fun. It was a good collaboration doing that. But yeah, it was all him. He sent me all this great stuff, and then you just sort of pieced it together. And but I remember the note we kept going to is just like, score it like it is a horror film. Like, let's just make it scary. It should sound uneasy and intense. And I think he definitely succeeded.
So that's something I actually wanted to talk to you guys about, because we talked about the house kind of in the location sort of being a character. And I always feel like the music can be a character as well in the film, to drive sort of that tension level and to kind of create this sort of sense of craziness in most genre films, right? I mean, I always think of like the horror, you just mentioned it, Reese, like the horror films, like they have these memorable scores like Friday the 13th and Halloween and like even Nightmare on Elm Street. Is that I mean, do you think that's more important for genre films, or is it just kind of whatever fits the vibe of the film, or do you feel like a strong soundtrack, and this can go to Gabe as well? Do you think a strong soundtrack can really add to genre films, especially if you're working within budget limitations?
Yeah, well, I mean, I really think that. I mean, it just, again, it depends on the movie, but yeah, I think horror films, genre films, like a score really pushes it that extra mile. But you got to be careful though too, because you got to find that happy balance of, it's got to be a decent score as well. And you kind of have to start developing a bit of an ear, which is good when you work with somebody like Gabe who has experience doing music and who can kind of go to you and go, yeah, that's not sounding so good. Let's try this instead. It's but I think it really has to go project to project in terms of what you want to do. But I mean, like you said, when I think of movie scores, some of the most iconic scores that I can think of immediately come from horror films. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's just a fun playground. Gabe, you could probably answer this better for us. Like, what is it about horror specifically that makes scoring so much more of an adventure?
I think because of the cues. In the horror films, you have a lot of suspense and silence, and sometimes with those silences and suspenseful moments, you have the actor not saying anything. You have scenes with no dialogue, and that's where score has to come in. And the score will either say, like, well, how intense is this scene? What sound are you going to have to audioize, or that level of suspense? And I think that's where horror films really have this like amazing experience with playing with instruments and sounds. That's my opinion.
I also think too, as filmmakers, you have to be careful and you have to know when not to use score either. That's a really big thing.
There's a lot of cheesy movies that you see with.
Yes. And Gabe and I, whenever we're watching films, we will always comment on the score and be like, oh, too much. Like it's.
Yeah, there's movies that are like, the movies suck, but the score is amazing.
Yes.
I'm not going to name any, but it's like, I own the soundtrack, but I will never watch the movie again.
I'll name one. Sure. I thought X-Men Dark Phoenix was like one of those movies where I thought like, I mean, it's Hans Zimmer, so I mean, whatever, but maybe that's a cheat, but still, I remember watching this. I mean, everyone told me that movie was like not great, like worst of the series, blah, 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 blah. And then I watched it and I was like, this music is amazing. Like I want to get these tracks. Like that'll help me work if I listen to that on a daily basis. So I think for especially for you guys, I mean, as if you needed something else to do, right, Gabe? You needed to do the full soundtrack as well. You had too much on your plate, right? So you're like, oh, hey, maybe we'll just keep it.
Actually, like when it came to post, Reese had more on his plate. And like, I kind of like was like, okay, he's editing the film. And then when the score thing came up, it was exciting because it was like, oh, I get to do something now. You know what I mean? I get to partake in the edit a little bit more than I would be if he was just doing it himself.
So I wanted to talk, that's a great segue because I did have a question to this because I get asked this a lot. And I know that Gabe, especially you, Reese, I don't think we've ever actually talked about this, but I'm curious because obviously this isn't your first rodeo. You've both directed films by yourselves prior to this, and movies that have gone on to do some really, really commendable stuff. But in the edit, if we're talking post-production, you've got all this crazy footage, you've got all this crazy carnage. Of course, you only have the location. It's not like you can go back and do reshoots really in this location with the situation that it was. You're getting everything that you possibly can. How do you edit that down into like 80 minutes? Like, cause it's a tight 80 minutes and it never feels like it's too much and it never feels like it drags. But was there a longer cut of this film where you had to kind of say, oh man, like we gotta chop this down? And were you always gunning for 80 minutes or that's just how it worked out as far as pacing?
I thought, to answer the first part of your question, this is actually one of the easiest movies I've had to edit. I don't know why. It just came together really, really smooth. Because part of it was that I was able to catalog all the footage myself. So I watched everything for about 3 days before I started editing. And I organized all my files myself so I knew where everything was. So putting it together was pretty easy. And funny enough, the first cut of the movie is not that much different than the version you have on your shelf back there. It was a really, really smooth process. And the first cut wasn't much longer than what it is now. It's a little bit longer, maybe by, I think it's only 5 or 6 minutes, really. I mean, I was personally, and I will still stand by this, I was gunning for the movie to be shorter. In a perfect world, I wanted it to be 75 minutes with credits. I think we needed to lose another 4 minutes in the movie, but we were told that it had to be 80 on the dot. So,
gotcha. Well, I mean, it's well, like I said, I didn't feel like I saw the premiere at Fantasia, and obviously, we were all kind of watching at home, but it's an adrenaline pumping movie, and I find a lot of films, especially nowadays, and this is not for indie films, it's just for every film, like for some reason it feels like edits are longer than they've ever been before. Every film is way longer than it needs to be, and I always watch films and I always think to myself, man, I wish that was like 10 minutes shorter. I wish that was like 15 minutes shorter, because it would have just popped a little bit. I would have had my attention a lot longer. And not to call out The Matrix 4. Listen, if you want to hear my, and listen, if you want to hear my critique of Matrix 4, tune into Rob Bellamy's Movie Madhouse Monday, January 10th. I'll be on it if you want to hear my thoughts on Matrix 4 and as well as the new Spider-Man film. But I had thought about this while I was watching the film, and we're not gonna talk about the Matrix, but I'm just saying Matrix 4 is the longest Matrix movie out of all 4 of them. And I was just like, how is that? I don't even understand how that's possible. And that's one of the reasons I think the first movie works so well. And this is just a commentary on movies in general, is it's so tight that it's like, it doesn't overstay its welcome. And I think that's a real challenge for a lot of filmmakers nowadays to do, because it don't feel like anyone's really doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
It's funny you're saying that, because like I was reading some reviews and stuff the last 2 days, and there's some reviews that they're saying like the first half of this film just dragged on forever, and what seemed like in minutes felt like way longer. And I'm like, I don't care what people think, because I'm so desensitized to the film now that I'm like, is it? Maybe it is. Or I would never say, no, it's not. Or yes, like I'm just so like, maybe. I don't know.
They're right, it is. It's that extra 4 minutes I should have cut.
So one of the things as well, and Gabe, here's the other thing too, is like, yeah, I wish it was like nonstop action from scene one, but you also have to establish characters as well, and that kind of makes the film, especially this film, flow. There's motives, there's characters here that you actually really do get attached to it. Of course, you've got an incredible cast. I would say that you've got Laura Burke, who's an incredible actress. You've got Nick Smith, and you've got Colin Paradine, who is, for me, awesome, because if you've met Colin in real life, he's like the nicest dude on the planet. And he's like the biggest bastard in this film. So I commend him for his performance for sure. But how did that cast come together? Because I think it starts with Laura. I think she's the focal point. She's kind of the main character in this film as far as like her experience. Like that's who the audience is along for the ride with. How did you line up this cast, and what did they bring to the project specifically to help the film achieve what it's done?
It was a huge audition process. Once Raven Banner and Abby came on board, they were, they wanted to open up to the entire area. So I think, we had, I forget, it was 2 days in Toronto, and, everyone came out to see what they got. And it was nuts. It was a blur. There was a lot of people coming out. And you see all the talent, and I think it came down with combinations and the right looks for people. I think that's always a big thing. And then you all obviously have, Raven Banner and Abby putting their 2 cents in, right? It's not just Reese and I. We everyone butt heads with certain people at one point, but at the end of the day, we were all it was an unanimous vote across the table with who we landed. But I'll let Reese talk about the Nick, and because Nick came on at the very end, didn't he? And Colin was there from the start. I think you pretty much wrote it for Colin in a sense. Like is that how it went? And then like Colin had to go through the whole trial just because that's the way it is, the process.
Yeah, well, it's like Gabe said, we did, not to mention the Toronto auditions, but we also had dozens of video auditions as well
yeah.
that we sat through. Dozens. And it was just so tricky because we didn't really have anybody in mind in our head of who it could be. But you also knew that once they started saying the lines, you're like, no, that's not right. Like, that's just not at all the tone. It's either played too high, too low, but no, like, happy middle ground. So Laura was great because it was sort of a 1-2 punch of she was coming off of Poor Agnes and Life Changer. And Gabe and I had seen Life Changer the year before. We went to go see it at TAD. And we're like, holy shit, she's really good. And it just kind of seemed like a no-brainer because when she read for the part, you went, well, yeah, there it is. That's the thing we're looking for. Colin's been in everything I've made. He's like my good luck charm. He's my Robert De Niro, my Leo DiCaprio. Like I put him in everything, even if he's just standing in the background somewhere. So when I wrote it, I was just kind of thinking of Colin. You know, what a terrible thing to write for your friends. Who can play a prick?
Yeah, I wrote this for you. Dude, this is an awful character. I don't like this guy. But I mean, I don't want to speak for Colin, of course. But I think most actors as well will people that I've interviewed and even talked to as well as like there's something juicy about a villain, right?
Absolutely.
You can sink your teeth into, and especially if you have, like, I mean, going back to Laura as well, like I always feel like, and I saw Life Changer, like I didn't really know Laura Burke, and I saw Life Changer, and I can't remember what else I saw, but before this film. And she, everyone talks about actors being like, people are like an everyman, right? Like there's just like they could be you or me or like or whatever. And she's kind of like an every woman in this movie where she's just she's working mom, and she's got like this this horrible experience that's kind of come crashing through her front door, and I just feel like she brings a lot of I don't know what a grounded sense, like a sensibility to the character where it's just like, it's believable. Right. And I think that helps the film kind of take off from where it starts to kind of where it ends.
Well, for sure. Cause all three characters are so strikingly different in their personality that they have to balance like three different factions of the movie for you essentially. Cause the movie purposely doesn't over explain anything. So you're seeing things through their eyes. So you need that kind of one person to be you're the audience, essentially. You're diving in with her. Back to your original question, though, that Gabe was getting, the hardest role we had to cast was Nick Smith as Chris. We couldn't find anybody. Like, we literally couldn't find anybody. Talk about a role that, like, we heard read so many. And God bless the people who auditioned for us. Obviously, they don't know what our thoughts and feelings were. They were giving their best. But we got so many wrong readings of it that it got to a point where we were like, I don't even know what a good reading of this character would be anymore. And it was the suggestion of my wife, Erin, who knew Nick, that we should audition him because he didn't come in for any of the auditions.
Right.
He had a brief part in Defective, but he was like the 7-Eleven commercial comedy guy.
Yeah. He was the chef in the late night double feature. I think
that's right.
Funny.
Yeah. Like he's
comedy.
Yeah, he does a lot of comedy. He's just a funny guy in real life. And Aaron was like, I'm telling you, I think he'd be really intense. And just on a whim, I sent him the sides and I said, can you do a self-tape for us? And the first one he did, we went, there it is. That's how you do it. But much like Colin and everybody, there was still like, he had to go through we put him through the ropes. He auditioned for us again. And then he did another videotape. And same with Colin. We did videotape, then we auditioned him again. We still saw other people. We weren't just going to give away the roles. But it was imperative that you found three people who could balance well off of each other and who could, as Gabe said, they had to complement each other. Because it's such that first half that people say is too slow. Like, as Benner, as you rightfully pointed out, I love that people love the second half. The second half is great. But it does not work without the first half of the movie, whether you like it or not. Mm-hmm. And it's a drama. It's a stage piece between these three. And if one of those three didn't work, then it would be just a shit show, So
right. And of course, if it was action from from second one to the last second on the screen, people would say, well, there's not enough setup and there's not enough. I mean, like I always say, you can't please everyone. You can try, you can certainly try, and you should try to please everyone, but you're not going to. So make the attempt, but don't be surprised if you can't. But listen, let's jump into a few more comments here. I've got some people still tuning in. Just let me see. Okay. Speaking of, I don't know if this is the same Nick. I'm not sure, but Nick Man, Legend Hero. These guys are my favorite directors to work for. Hell of a project. And then if just a quick follow up, he said, tell him about the mirror. I don't know if you can tell us that story, but I would love to hear it.
Well, that was Nick. He's one of our stunt guys. Yeah.
Okay.
So Nick's great. Gabe, you tell the story about the mirror. You tell it so well. It's the living room mirror.
I feel like I've told it so many times.
I want to. You never told me, man. I want to hear it.
All right, so
this is Takeover Tuesday, baby.
Like what time of night it was. It was after we ate in the trailer. There's behind the scenes photo. The stunt team is exhausted. Everyone's just kind of like laying on whatever they can, sitting on chairs. You know, like they're just slouching. It's probably like 11 o'clock at night, and you know TJ's up and everyone's up. So there's this mirror by the front door that Reese and I bought at Valley Village, and we bought it thinking, oh yeah, you know. We got to be careful because like there's mirrors, and once you put mirrors on a set where there's tons of action, something happens, it's going to break, shatter on the ground. Got to clean it up. Someone could get cut. You know, the safety. But whatever. It was by the front door. It was like a stop sign. The mirror was like a huge kind of like hexagon stop sign from what I remember. But we saw it and we're like, oh, you know, it's pretty flimsy. Like whatever. So we had this scene where Nick comes down and gets the guy, and they topple a little bit against the wall, and then they do like a turn, push, shove thing, and he gets thrown into the mirror. So the camera was on the stairs looking down, and I remember, Adam would get all padded up. He's all the pads. He's foam underneath everything. Like he's like zipped with his mask on. Like, okay, if the mirror breaks, he's gonna be okay. And he was overly confident with it. So, scene comes, we're rolling, and Nick just throws him into the mirror. We're like, oh, boing, just bounces off the mirror. We're like, oh, and he's like, man. We're like, whoa, it didn't break. Okay, well, let's try it again. Take two, same thing. Boing, bounces off the mirror. We're like, okay, what the hell's going on here? So we go up to the mirror. We're like, is this actually glass? Or is this like a plexi mirror? Because, it could be like a plexiglass mirror where it's not even real glass, and it's just bending. I still don't know why that mirror didn't break. I think on the sixth take, we had to get TJ to come, and he had this little like thing. He went and scored the sides of it so it could break. Even when he did that, the mirror would not break. Adam was just bouncing off it, and I think Adam was getting more annoyed and bruised because it's like throwing yourself into a wall constantly is going to hurt. And I feel like he didn't even care if at that point it broke and cut. We just wanted that mirror to break. So eventually TJ went in and got a little thing, and even then it was hard, and then eventually it broke. But even when it broke, it was kind of like uneventful.
It was very underwhelming.
Yeah, we were like what it did, we're like, oh, that's it? Like that was it?
Only like 3.5 years bad luck, right? Not 7.
Well, I think that's on the behind the scenes, right? It
is. And you have to understand, by that point on the production, we were getting spoiled with how much we could destroy in that house. And we had a pretty good success ratio of like bodies being thrown into things and destroying them, because we had done the bathroom scene already. And Adam did a pretty successful back slam into the bathroom vanity, and it smashed and shattered and exploded. And we're like, this one's going to be a walk in the park. This is the cheapest piece of shit we got from Valley Village.
It'll break.
It's going to break in a heartbeat. And it took forever. This stupid mirror so it got to the point where you're like, why are we even doing this? Like, this is such a stupid stunt. And the other thing too about that old house is because it was built so long ago, like the walls were, I'm not an architect. I don't know what they were made out of, but it was like trying to punch through concrete. So throwing yourself into them, like you're asking a lot out of a person. So
what you're saying is like they used to make things better than they do now.
Yes, they did. 100%. 100%. Yeah.
And they didn't think to themselves, you know what? Probably in like about 50 years, some guys are going to come in here and try and destroy this house while making a film,
exactly.
right? So I want to talk about the stunt work, and let's get there. I just want to throw up a couple more comments because everyone's kind of been chiming in tonight, which is super awesome. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and thanks again for checking us out on whatever platform you're checking out the live feed on. Of course, we're broadcasting live to Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. And of course, after the fact, if you missed this, you can obviously watch the rerun on YouTube, and we'll be retransmitting to all the major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify, or wherever you pick up your favorite podcasts. Please check them out, and you can hear this whole interview. We do definitely appreciate your support. Just a funny thing in here from our good buddy Daryl. Gabe, is that really you? Whoa. I'm just going to assume that's a Matrix reference, Daryl. So I should read that again. Gabe, is that really you? Whoa. And just a follow-up, we were just talking about Laura Burke from our good friend Tracy. As a single mom, I can validate that Laura made it very believable. It made me uncomfortable, but in a good way, watching her in the film, which is fantastic. And I'm sure this is probably a friend of yours, but David says, David Moffat sound says, one of the films I'm most proud of to work on when we do Vicious 2, for the sake of Vicious 2, Ramona's Revenge.
David Moffat was our sound guy on set, and he was
our hero. I can't believe the patience he had with us.
Yeah, David has worked on.
I feel there's a story there.
No. He's a guy.
There is a story, but I don't know if I should tell.
He's done dozens of movies. Like, he's done all these Hallmark movies, tons of them, and he came on to our little low budget movie and worked for a severely reduced rate. We didn't have a place for him to stay. He drove back and forth every day. He did sometimes, oh my God, hours that we shouldn't have done, like 16, 17, 18-hour days. And other than one or two times, he never complained. He was there. Yeah.
The biggest thing in my head on set every day was, I don't care what happens today, as long as Dave doesn't get annoyed. I don't care if the camera team gets annoyed. I don't care if Reese gets, but if Dave starts getting annoyed, which he probably did, but he kept it to himself. But if he didn't, and I'm like, okay, that's essentially at the end of the day, I always wondered in my head, I'm like, fuck, I hope Dave is like okay with this environment, this working condition right now, because
Dave was the stress test. If Dave got angry, then you knew we've gone too far.
Now, what was getting the only sign that I could tell was the sighs, because when it was 3 a.m., likely so, you would hear this. These sighs coming from his room.
Yeah, it's like when I said I'm good with long days, I meant like 12, 15 hours, not 16.
It was like he was really good.
It's funny. It's like, I mean, I just watched on Netflix, they have that show, the movies that made us, right? And I watched around Christmas, I watched the Home Alone one, and I guess it's kind of a similar story. Is that I think because John Hughes produced that and Chris Columbus directed, I think.
Directed it,
yeah. So John Hughes called in a favor and got John Candy to come in and film one day. And so that's why John Candy's in Home Alone when he's at the depot and he gives Kevin's mom a ride home, right?
Yeah.
And I guess John Candy did it for the minimum, and he said he'd work one day. So he did it for and they had the sheet, and I think they paid him like $430 or $435, but they kept him there for like 19 hours.
19 hours, yeah.
And he was just pissed by the end. But still, I mean, John Candy's amazing, and it's like,
absolutely,
I'm so glad he's in that movie. So, but I guess it's like even guys like John Hughes push their luck, right? With a lot of people. So, and just a quick follow up to here. Nick, the stunt guy, says, "Hey, I'm in for Ramona's Revenge."
I don't know what it's Romina.
Romina. Oh, sorry, it's Romina.
Yeah, come on, guys, you worked on the
okay. Yeah, sorry.
Is that what it's going to be called?
Romana.
Hey, and listen, and you know what? I can tell you that David, your sound guy, totally heard that story, because he's just piped in again and said, "I've still got blood on my C-stand."
I just remember Dave calling up.
There was people on our set who, maybe this was their first time on a feature film set, completely. And Dave, and Dave is like a industry veteran. So it was like, wow, like he's used to being on sets with people who I've been doing this for 10 plus years, right? And here you have people mingling with Dave, and Dave's posture, his composure, like honestly, like it was a level of professionalism that I think we needed on set for new people in film going, that's how you behave, that's how you act, like patience, calm. But I mean, I think, I don't know, I think Dave should have lost it at least once or twice, but he didn't, to be honest.
Not around us, at least. So
that's true.
So let's we've got a couple of things that I've talked to. I know we're over the hour mark. Thanks. You guys go okay to stick around for a little while longer?
Absolutely.
Okay. So this isn't going to be a 3-hour episode, I promise. Thanks everyone for, we still have a pretty good audience tonight. So thanks everyone for sticking around, checking this out. And of course, this movie is heavy on fights, physical violence, stunt work. Can we dive into that and talk us through about how that kind of came, like what was the process to do this? Because I've seen your other films. It's not like they don't have violence or you know, special effects or choreography or anything like that, but not like this. And I think that's fair to say. What went into that process? Like what went into that, into kind of, where did you start? You knew it was going to be heavy on sort of like the destruction of this house. How did you go about choreographing that stuff and setting it up before you filmed?
I mean, we have to give that credit to the stunt team, right? Nick, TJ, Adam, Dorian, what's the other guy's True Northcraft? What's his name?
Don't put me on the spot. I know.
Someone put
Boris.
Boris.
Yeah.
There it is. You know, those guys were like, it was awesome because like, it just felt like they were so militant. Like Reese had the script. He gave, you know, we go through the scene with them, but they kind of took it like they already knew what they had to do, but they took it and they kind of made it their own. There was like a second unit direction almost on their part, and then they would show us, and we were pretty much. I mean, I was fine with whatever they were doing, but they pretty much directed those fight scenes, the momentum, the what guy was coming in. Like they were really throwing their ideas. And we owe it a lot to them,
because it's hard to make that stuff look realistic.
Yeah,
and people know, and it's not like, you know, it's not like it's like a short film or a commercial or anything like that. Like it's a continued state of you know, violence and threat throughout the film, and people know that's a movie, right? Like people know that it's stunt. You know, stunt work, and it's not real. So it's very hard to get it to feel as visceral as it does in this film. Like, was there anything in particular that you kind of, or any scenes in particular that you were like, as soon as you shot it, you were like, we're onto something here. Like things are really clicking here.
I think it kind of always was like, but going back to what you're saying, like Reese and I always wanted the violence in this to be visceral. We didn't want it to be like the punching and the kicking. You see a lot of that, where suddenly you have these characters that know how to punch and know how to kick. And I think Reese said it best. These guys are guys who were just having dinners with their families and they got the call. Like they're not trained to fight, like in the characters. Right. They weren't trained like in the movie, these henchmen, they weren't like trained ninjas or anything like that, or martial artists. They were like, one guy, you know, was probably having dinner and gets the call from his mob boss and has to go out. So the fighting had to be, you know, grounded in a sense, not fantastical.
Right.
Because none of them are expecting to show up to this house and feel the beating that they get. So basically we didn't want kung fu, you know, we wanted it to just feel like you had watched a bar fight or you were in the middle of a bar fight. And it was very important to feel like you got to be like you're in it. So we made that very clear. And I think it was definitely in there in the script when we were writing it, just how the fights were supposed to be like awkward and clumsy and uncomfortable. But like I said, we got TJ Kennedy on board, who you'd worked with on The Demolisher. He was there in The Demolisher, right? And he did all the stunts for me on Defective. So he was immediately brought on board with Adam, and they were both our stunt supervisors. So we broke down all the fights with them. So basically, let's just take a day. So we'll say the bathroom fight day. This is how a fight scene a fight day would work out for us. So we'd get them on set. We'd show them the location, which they had a pretty good idea of, and they'd been discussing beforehand sort of what we wanted based on the script. And then we would let Adam and TJ go into the space, say the bathroom, for instance, by themselves, and they would work out the stunt for about 5 to 6 hours, maybe less, going through every single beat. They'd bring us in and be like, what do you think of this? Yes, no, okay, great. And then when they're done, they bring us in and say, we're going to do this. We can hit this. For the safety of the actors, we'll do this, and we'll do this. And it's going to be, what I liked to do is I always told TJ and Adam, break it down into stages so we can shoot in chunks. So like, this is stage 1, this is stage 2, this is stage 3, this is stage 4. The bathroom fight's probably like 5 different stages. And they would just do it chunk by chunk. And funny enough, they were rehearsed enough that doing the fight scenes ended up actually being some of the easier things to do in the movie, because it was just a very coordinated dance of, here's the space, let's just focus on this little part here. Okay, great. We've got that out of the way. It's done. Here's the next part. We've got that out of the way. It's done. And they're very safe, very professional about it. And also have to give a lot of credit to our camera team, because you got Alistair, who was our camera operator, and Alex, who would just literally throw themselves into the action. Like, if you talked about what's the scene where you go, oh, it's working. For me, it was when we did the bathroom fight.
Yeah. Like,
once we were in it and going through it, you were like, yeah, this is the fight. This really works. And, you know, it's almost, it's like Gabe said, I know we directed it, but at the same time, you have to give them almost all the credit for how well the scenes turned out, because they really dictated it along with the camera team about how to pull it off and how to make it work. And we're just the kind of there to finesse the little fine details of it and the character performances and make sure we're hitting the beats. But it was like this really perfect dance. And it would only get slowed down if we had to do special makeup effects, because obviously that becomes a whole operation unto itself. So
yeah, I always feel like they, like, I don't know why I think of Michael Bay, but like, I always feel like these guys need to be working with Michael Bay because the amount of like,
Bayhem.
It almost feels like they were a special ops team that were hired to come to our set to do the stunts. That's what it felt like. Like, and I think one night they slept in the trailer in the cold. They didn't, like, that's how hardcore these guys were. Like, they, like, yeah, it was unreal. I can't wait to work with them again on something.
And they took real hits at some points too. We didn't ask them to do it. That's something they decided, because it's like, it's going to look better if we just take they were padded, obviously. And that's a lot of the reason they had the masks, is because we're reusing the same guys over and over and over again. But yeah, no, they were great. I think a military, that's the best way. They were like a COVID secret ops team that we got. I mean, Boris himself was like, he was trained.
I feel like he is.
Yeah, we feel like he is. Like he trained people. He would train people how to get out of like home invasion scenarios. Like, he was teaching Laura how to get out of being tied up and hogtied and stuff like that. So, and he knew how to pick locks and everything. These guys had some crazy shit up
when you're making an action film, guys. You
Yeah.
know that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And he's got a lot of fans out here. We got Christian piping in here, Boris, and Nick saying Boris.
Thanks, guys. I got it eventually. So.
Yeah, and I feel like it's like, you know, and my nickname's gonna be Natasha. Boris.
Doris. Yeah.
Boris is the one who gets his throat slit at the very end.
Yes. He
Whoa,
did.
spoilers. Whoa, spoilers. Okay, some guy dies in this movie. I don't think that's giving away too much, but awesome. I mean, I think that I did have another, you know what, there was a question that came in here. I was wondering if I could get your take on it too, because I feel like you guys would have some experience doing this. Just a question from the OHFP. Of course, longtime viewers of the show. Appreciate your support, guys. But they are filmmakers themselves, small filmmaking team operating out of London, Ontario. But they're just saying, what advice would you have for someone who is, also has to shoot a feature in one location, smallish house, in a short amount of time in the winter? Anything that is like, just that comes right to the top of the pile there to say, hey, make sure you do this.
Location permits and making sure you have parking available for your cast and crew.
Okay, parking. Gabe, any advice right off the top of your head?
Those are good ones. Parking and location permits, and then maybe just even like, work really fast, and I don't know. Yeah, location. It depends on your location, right? Like if you're shooting in winter, so winter is going to be a character in your film. So think about B-roll, right? Because if you're making an independent film on one location, you're going to need something to split it up a little bit, so you're not just staring at the one location the whole time. So think about B-roll and kind of what's outside this location, like anything. That's the first thing that I would probably pop in my head.
Yeah, great advice.
I feel like it's less about the location too. It's also got to be about the team you put together that's working with you on the movie, because the team's going to go a lot of the way. I mean, if you have the location and you have the area and you have your script, that's great, but you need the team that's going to pull it off with you and do it correctly. So.
Okay, awesome. No, I think that's great advice. Hopefully that helps you out. Thanks for the question for sure. Now we're wrapping up, kind of coming down to, we're kind of going to finish up, but I would be remiss if I didn't put you guys through our rapid fire question segment, which I don't know if you guys know about, but we do a rapid fire 5 question set for all of our guests on here. And just to let everyone know, rapid fire is brought to us by, and everyone else out there, by Wellington Brewery's Helles Lager. Take advantage of Wellington's free local delivery. Visit their brewery retail store in Guelph, Ontario, or pick up some of your favorite beers in cans at your LCBO or wherever you pick up your adult beverages. Helles Lager, Helles, yeah. So you guys ready to do this? You guys want to do rapid fire? You don't really have a choice, so we're gonna do it. But here we are. Okay, here we go. 5 questions. Here we go. Putting you guys on the spot. Okay. Speaking of rapid fire, question 1, yes or no. Speaking of invasion films, is the film The Raid better than Assault on Precinct 13?
Yes.
Gabe?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
No.
Typical game. Typical game. Could have seen that one coming a mile away.
Did you hear the surprise in my voice? I was like, wow. You know what's funny? It's
Can that be? Are you talking about the remake or the original?
The
original Assault on Precinct 13.
Yeah, the original was. Yeah.
I mean, you can't really compare those movies though. Like that's why I say no, because you can't compare them.
You know what, on The Raid, it's funny. It's like we just tried to watch this over the holidays. We didn't get to it, but we were debating. We actually ended up watching Cliffhanger instead, which is kind of, I guess, not really a Christmas movie, but a winter movie. And shout out to John Lithgow, Trinity Killer. But anyway, like for The Raid has the best tagline. I can't remember if it's a review or just the tagline for the film, and it's like it says it's a 100-minute movie. It says 1 minute of romance and 99 minutes of pure carnage. I think that's the tagline, and I had forgotten how awesome that tagline is. But yeah, I love that movie. Okay, fair enough. I love The Raid as well. I think it's like one of the best action movies maybe ever made. But okay, moving right along. Okay, rapid fire. You got to pick one. An intergalactic triple threat match is going down for complete control of the Outer Rim. Boba Fett, Mando, Psycho Gorman. Who wins?
Boba Fett.
Oh shit! For being realistic. Okay, so all 3 of these are possible contenders.
It's a triple threat match. They're all going to fight each other at the same time. Who comes out?
Boba Fett, man.
Psycho Gorman's got a lot of powerful shit going on. You know, he conjured a lot of stuff, and he was tapping into some other dark universe shit that I don't think Boba Fett could.
So you put it this way,
but Psycho Gorman's got like crazy other shit. He can eat them. He could take shots. I'm gonna have to go with Psycho Gorman on this. Yeah.
Mando would get killed off right away, so then it would come down to Boba and Psycho Gorman.
Depending if there's a Sarlacc nearby, right?
Now, the thing with Boba is actually way more intelligent than Psycho Gorman. And I know Boba would find a way, find Psycho Gorman's weakness fairly quickly and annihilate him. Now, I go back to that because if you watch Attack of the Clones and you watch Jango Fett, his father, Jango Fett, essentially a normal human being or humanoid person, goes against Obi-Wan Kenobi, a Jedi Knight. This isn't Obi-Wan Kenobi in training. He's going against Obi-Wan Kenobi, a Jedi Knight in the ring. And pretty much he does beat him. So then if you like, okay, what about a Jedi versus Psycho Gorman? How would that fare up? A Jedi would kill Psycho Gorman. So then you go, okay. So that's what I do. I go, okay.
Depends which Jedi, man. Are you talking about the Jedis that are like in like Palpatine's chamber in Revenge of the Sith that like go down in 2 seconds? Or are we talking like Vader.
I'm talking trained Jedi.
Or not Vader, Anakin, Obi-Wan, Luke.
I don't think Psycho Gorman can die though. If the movie has led me to believe that.
Well, then it's not really. Yeah.
Yeah, but this is a real scenario. This is a very real scenario.
No, this has to be decided tonight.
Yeah,
man.
so I'm putting my money. Listen, they're all very good fighters, excellent choices. But if I had a gun to my head, I'd be like, no, I'm going to go with Psycho Gorman here. So.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so moving right along, rapid fire. Help us out. You're each writing down your co-director's first and last name. How many E's are you writing down? First and last name combined.
Sorry, like for Reese?
You're writing Reese's name down. Reese is writing your name down. And go.
6.
Mine's easy. 3, I think. Yeah. I'm going
You
with
have 6 E's.
Well, but I'm writing his name, right?
Yeah.
3.
I don't have 3 E's in my name.
That's correct. Gabriel Carrer.
Oh, right.
First and last name combined.
Yeah. Okay. What are you, 5 or 6? That's the first number that came in my head. E for your first name. E. Yeah, 6.
Yeah, I think you counted 7 E's there, but your answer is 6. That is correct.
Yeah.
That is correct. Awesome. Okay, so rapid fire. Tell us more. Comparing Halloween Kills and the original Halloween 2, are you a fan of the Laurie Strode Michael Myers reveal or no? And explain yourself.
Like the reveal of them being brother and sister?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. God.
Yeah. I always liked Halloween 2. I don't know why it gets so much hate. And I love Halloween Kills. I think it's amazing. Yeah. I'll explain myself. Are you a fan of? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And why do you like it? Why do you like that reveal? I'm assuming that everyone's seen Halloween Kills, but
Halloween Kills, they're not brother and sister.
That's right. For some reason, I don't know why.
But. I mean, I like. Comparing Halloween Kills. Are you a fan of Laurie Strode Michael reveal or no? Oh, so I'm a fan of the Halloween Kills one.
No. Are you a fan of the reveal that Michael Myers and Laurie Strode are siblings in the original Halloween 2? Do you like that reveal?
I do like that. I think for that, it propelled that franchise. I like all the other Halloween movies, like the original ones too. And I think that just gave another kind of yin-yang dynamic. Yeah, I'm a fan of it because, that was a major, it's, it had more of a creep factor too, like her brother is after her rather than just some.
It's funny. I'm surprised they didn't carry that over because I always thought Halloween 1 and 2 were pretty strong. Like obviously the first one is probably the best out of the entire franchise. I don't think a lot of people disagree with that comment, but I always thought Halloween 2, and I just watched the Scream Factory 4K. Looks amazing, and it's not quite as good as the first one, but it does kind of carry on like it's right afterwards and stuff. And I'm surprised that I remember watching the remake, like the Halloween. I can't remember what year, 2018, I think, right? Like the first of this new kind of series. And I was surprised that they said, well, everything, this is picking up after the original first movie, not the original first 2 movies. I thought was surprising a little bit, but.
So Benner, sorry, we're going on a brief tangent here, unless you have to run, but I got to know, because you're such a movie fan, what's your opinion on these new series of films coming out that all of a sudden decide to retroactively be like, okay, we're just ignoring the sequels.
Oh, okay. Well,
which what? Give me an example. What do you mean?
Well, with exactly what the new Halloween in 2018 did, where they're like, we're just making a sequel to the first movie. We're going to ignore all the other. Because this is becoming a very popular thing.
Terminator,
have they done that?
Terminator did it. So Dark Fate was like Terminator 1 and 2 are what we're going with. This is basically like quote unquote like the next Terminator 3.
Yeah.
And I mean it's funny. It's like the whole Rebootquel thing. I mean I don't know. I mean I liked. I think if it's done, I mean it depends on how. Oh, Alien. No, Aliens didn't do that.
They were going to.
They were going to say that, but even that they didn't necessarily like erase those movies. It kind of explained them away. But I mean, I guess it depends on how good that movie is. I really liked the new Halloween. I wasn't a fan of Halloween Kills personally, but I really liked the first one, like the first Halloween. I thought it was great. I thought, like, you know, Jamie Lee Curtis coming back and kind of being this sort of traumatized you know, older woman who has kind of lived with this for 40 years and stuff. I just thought they lost the thread in Halloween Kills a little bit, but it really depends on how good the movie is. Yeah, it's tough, man. Like, I mean, it's hard. I mean, they're always going to make sequels. I think the first movie to do it, well, it probably wasn't the first movie to do it, but the first big successful movie to do it was Jurassic World, where they were like, here's what we're going to do. We're going to, like, you know, we're going to reboot this movie, and this is how we're going to do it. And it made like 1.6 million or billion at the box office worldwide. And they were like, holy shit. And everyone was like, what IPs do we have? Right. And I think it's easy to kind of take an IP that a studio owns and make something new. I just hope that there's some acknowledgement of the original films. And I mean, my favorite, I think, well, I don't know if it was my favorite, but one of my favorite films of the year was the new Ghostbusters. Like, I loved it personally.
Right.
I still need to see that.
Like, it's just fantastic. Okay. So, you know, again, no spoilers, cause I know some people haven't seen it, but they really attribute the first film. They kind of acknowledge the second film a little bit, not really, but they still do it very tactfully, I guess. And maybe that's a new franchise, maybe it's not, who knows, but I really feel like as long as the original stories are sort of are honored a little bit or just respected, I think that's a big thing. But I'm not necessarily a huge fan of retconning things to the point where it's like, oh, well, this is why, you know, I mean, I feel like there's this thing where, like, everyone needs to know where everything came from, right? It's like, oh, that's how he got his shoes. Oh, that's how he got his, like, and it's like, it's redundant. Like, nobody cares.
Yeah.
And I did read an article, sorry, not to go on a big tangent. Sorry to our viewers or listeners, but I feel like this is important. This is important stuff. But I read an article lately. I can't remember what site. But they said that bringing back the problem is that they're bringing back characters, like legacy characters in all of these films, basically, for the most part. And they're not really adding to them. They're not really adding to their character arc. It's like that story sort of ended, and then they've brought these characters back, and why? Like, what's the reasoning for that? Was it because they didn't get any closure? Okay, well, that's one thing. Or is it because they don't, or they just want to make a bunch of money? And I think that's the problem, is like, as soon as you bring back these legacy characters where, you know, you try and make this sort of like other sequel, I mean, it really has to work, or it's no good. For me, I thought Ghostbusters Afterlife, I thought worked really, really well.
Yeah.
But, you know, like, I imagine if they announced, like, hey, we're going to do Back to the Future 4. And it's like, oh, I really don't know about that. I mean, nobody wants to see that movie, I don't think.
Right.
So yeah, I guess, be careful, but I mean, it's been done so much now that I just, like, my thing with that is that I hate when there's like a trilogy or a series of films that's pretty solid. Like, it's got a middle, a beginning, and an end, and just the ending is, and then they try and do something else with it. And it's just kind of like, well, there's this addendum now on this series that maybe nobody will watch, or it's ruined things that have come before it. Right. So,
right. Yeah. Cool. Right on.
But anyway, sorry. So I took way too much time.
No, it's great. I wanted to know.
Slow motion fire, man, not rapid fire. Okay. Anyway, last question, rapid fire. What do you want? You're tearing out a wall in an abandoned house during a film shoot, and you find $500 in cold hard cash. We know you're not giving it up. What are you buying with that money?
Okay, so I have to have fun with it. I can't pay bills or anything, right? That's forbidden.
Well, I mean,
that's not exciting though, right? Yeah.
I guess you could pay bills, but I mean, would you pay bills with that? $500, man. I got to pay my phone bill. Sweet.
Yeah, exactly. There we go. Yeah.
Well,
Gabe?
No, it just depends on the bills, right? Like, yeah. Like, no, is bills an option?
Okay, but here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. I feel like if you paid a bill, then you'd look at your bank account and say, "Well, now I don't have to pay that bill, so now I can go spend like the."
There you go. So you still have an extra $500. Yeah.
Right. So you're still going to spend it on something, right? So
I think it should be, you need to go spend it. Like, you can't pay.
You can't pay bills. All right. Okay. Good. Yeah. So it's just $500. You can't put it on bills. What would you do?
Guys?
What would you do, Reese?
I'm asking you. You go first.
I'd probably go to Taco Bell.
250 tacos,
First,
man.
and get in the car like, oh, dude, like we're going to Taco Bell. We go to, or Mucho Burrito. Probably Taco Bell. And then probably a record store. Probably go to Encore Records in Kitchener or Orange Monkey in Kitchener and get some stuff there because there's like stuff in those. There's like I would get some records that I wouldn't normally spend like $40 on. I'd be like, I'm gonna get that. I'm gonna get that now. I'm gonna get that. Now it's like you see these records and you're like, oh, I don't know. Or probably buy a 4K Blu-ray player. Christian's gonna laugh at that one.
There you go,
dude. 4K is amazing. It's fantastic. I love it. Reese?
Yeah, I'm probably gonna have to go the Blu-ray route. I don't know what specifically it would be, but I know I haven't bought any in a while, so I think I'd want to get something super special with it. Like I'm trying to track down that. We're talking about Halloween. I really want that Shout Factory Halloween set that they had years ago. That's out of print that you see pop up on eBay.
It's gonna come back.
I would like to get that so I can add it to my Friday the 13th Shout Factory collection. Oh God. I mean, food's always like, I'm a sucker. I could go to a restaurant and blow $500 on food. I happily would. I don't know what that restaurant would be.
Lobster tails or what?
Yeah, no, it'd probably be something fancier for sure. $500. Yeah. I'd be taking somebody out and being like, let's just go.
You go to Cherry Blossom and not feel guilty after.
Oh my God. Sushi. Yeah. $500 worth this. Oh, I think we'd be pretty sick after that. So I've seen what $100 in sushi gets us, and that almost kills us. So
yeah, I mean,
a tough one.
Yeah, shout out to Cherry Blossom. They got these awesome mussels that they have with like cheese and mayonnaise. It sounds weird, but they're amazing. Get those if you go the all you can eat. They're fantastic. If you like that stuff, if you like seafood and mayo,
mussels.
And,
all right,
and cheese.
Well, I know this is at us, but $500 to you. What are you going to do?
I don't know. I would. My hobbies are collecting, right? So I love collecting physical media. A lot of people, especially everyone who watches the show, knows that. So movies and music. So I'd probably go out and kind of knock off a few things off my my wish list, right? So probably some vinyl, CDs, Blu-rays. I'm an old guy, so I collect kind of like all the different medias, but no tapes for this guy, just CDs and records and Blu-rays, but 4K especially. I mean, 4K to me is like pretty awesome. It's like 4K is the thing that I've spent the most money on for an individual title than I ever have before. And I try and keep it under control, but it's tough when it's like one of your all-time favorite movies. I just did a review on like the True Romance thing that was coming out of Arrow. Yeah, the Arrow release of True Romance from 4K.
Yeah,
coming out of the UK, so you got to order it from the UK, and it's expensive to get, right, and shipped and all that stuff. So, yeah, I'd probably just blow it on that.
Right on.
Nothing significant. Listen, guys. Thanks again for doing rapid fire. That's the end. So you passed. Thank you so much. That's probably the longest rapid fire we've done. But hey, hopefully we. Of course, I'm to blame for that. But of course, rapid fire is brought to us by Wellington Brewery's Hellas Lager. You can check them out at their brewery location in Guelph, Ontario, or pick up some cans wherever you get your adult beverages. Hellas Lager. Or what is it? Hellas Lager? Hellas, yeah. So thanks again for Wellington. They keep us running throughout the all these years, as well as when we're on the road for conventions, as well as when we're stuck inside during quasi lockdown or whatever, or just the winter months. Let's not kid ourselves. I'm not going out anywhere in January. It's too cold. Anyway, so guys, we're gonna wrap things up, but I'm gonna go to a quick commercial. Can you guys hang around for a few more minutes and we'll answer a few more questions before we go off the air?
Absolutely.
Okay, awesome. Everyone stick around. We'll be back with the co-directors of For the Sake of Vicious, Gabriel Carrer and Reese Eveneshen. We'll have some other questions right after this.
Black Fawn Distro. Movies, merchandise, available now at blackfawndistribution.com.
And that's, of course, our shameless self-promotional plug for Black Fawn Distro. Of course, we've got movies and merchandise in our store, blackfawndistribution.com/store. Check it out if you can. Of course, all of our merchandise is created by Twisted Teas, and big shout out to them. Of course, our coffee blend, Appetite for Caffeination, Sweet Toffee O' Mine, is available in our store as well, and that was a partnership up with Deadly Grounds Coffee. So if you need coffee, if you need merch, check us out in the store. And of course, guys, I'm still joined by directors Reese Eveneshen and Gabriel Carrer, co-directors of For the Sake of Vicious. Of course, it's streaming on Shudder this Thursday, or starting the stream on Shudder on this Thursday, January 6th. Make sure you check it out. And of course, if you're in Canada, you can grab a Blu-ray copy either through the Raven Banner store or through Sunrise Records or Cinema One. Check this movie out. It is an insane, wild ride, and I definitely recommend it big time. So, quick shout out to the music of the show. We were talking about soundtracks earlier, but music for tonight's program is provided by the amazing Derek Prince Cox. He did our intro theme and created it a few months back, and we're proud to have that open up the show every couple of weeks. Ben Living from benlivingmusic.com. You can follow him on Instagram at Ben Living. Did the beats for our news segment, and he also does a lot of different beats for. He does a lot of remixes and stuff. Definitely worth checking out. He remixes like old school horror themes and that sort of stuff, and with like hip hop beats and that sort of stuff. So really really cool artist, and of course our commercial music provided by Fox Grinder. Thanks again for providing that, and hopefully you guys enjoyed the music tonight as well. Of course, it's always great to support local independent artists. Of course, I've thrown up the their handles at the bottom here on online. So if you're watching on Facebook or Twitch or Twitter or YouTube, give them a follow. They'd appreciate it. And, we will do what we can to help them out as well. So, okay, guys, thanks again for sticking around. Really, really appreciate it. We're over, the 1.5 hour mark. I think this might actually even be the longest podcast we've ever done. I'll have to check. That's not a challenge, but let's see how things go. Now, I wanted to talk to you guys about just influences. And, we've been friends for years. I mean, I've hung out with Gabe a ton of times. Like we've gone to record shops together and all that stuff. But I mean, where do the influences come for, like, and you can talk specifically about For the Sake of Vicious or just movies in general. What kind of influences you guys and how does that, can you give us an example of how it's helped a film that you've worked on?
Radio silence. Like Gabe was going to be the first one to jump on it. So
go. I think it's a melting pot now at this point. Like if you asked me 10 years ago, it would have been something else. And then, it's now at this time, it's a cherry picking, like melt, like just this vat of stew of influences. As you get older and you're making things, whatever you're doing, producing things, you're looking at other artists, not necessarily in the same thing that you're doing. Like, you might be making films, but you like a lot of musicians, and you kind of like look at what they're doing and see how their careers have progressed with their art. And then it kind of gives you time to reflect on like what you're doing. And you really it's just a melting pot. Like I can't name maybe one, because there's just lots.
So was there anything specifically that influenced the script for
this movie, or script?
Well, just I mean, you can pick either or. I don't know. I mean, some people I
think the biggest thing, like, and I told Reese at the beginning, was like the movie Point Break. There's an action scene in the film where Keanu Reeves arrives late to his own raid, and it's with Anthony, Red Hot Chili Peppers guy. He's in the house.
Anthony Kiedis, yeah.
Anthony Kiedis, and that little raid thing that happens in the house was always like, I just loved how dirty and real, and it was just rough with the lawnmower machine, and they're in the house. That kind of like maddening noise that you hear, that to me was always kind of like, I wanted that vibe, in the film somewhere. That chaos.
Yeah.
Because that scene as a kid, that still strikes out. Like if you watch that scene and compare it to action films today, it's nothing. But there's a reason why it's so good.
What's the sub place in Point Blank?
What?
Point Break, sorry. What's the sub place in Point Break? When he's just like, Utah, make it 2, the meatball sub place. Doesn't it have a name? Do you know that?
It's not a. They actually don't know. They actually don't have the name for that place.
No, okay. What is it? Utah, make it 2? Make it 2.
Utah, give me 2.
Give me 2. Only Gary Busey could eat 2 meatballs. What a fucking legend. No, that's interesting because I remember that scene. Yeah, that's cool. I'll think about that next time I watch that movie. Reese, anything for you as far as like what influenced, what went into the script, or maybe even in your direction style for this one?
I mean, it's trickier with this one because I feel like there were. It really does feel like what Gabe said, the melting pot for this one specifically. Like, as an example, if I look at Defective, I go, that's me feeling like Paul Verhoeven, RoboCop, Total Recall, Soylent Green, Planet of the Apes, Terminator, like the shooting style and the feel of it. Like those were very clear to me. With this one, it was more so just in the moment. I couldn't really think of anything specific that we were referencing because it just felt like such a weird hodgepodge of ideas, the script. Because it's like a home invasion movie, but it's kind of not, and it flips its head. But I know we would constantly talk about different filmmakers, so I can't point to anybody specific. It isn't until afterwards when you watch the movie where you go, oh, it's got little moments of this or little moments of that. And I mean, some of the obvious references that we've seen reviews point out are totally accurate, like Nicholas Winding Refn for sure. We were watching, what was his Amazon series?
Too Old to Die Young.
Too Old to Die Young. We were watching that as we were
watch that.
Yeah, as we were planning the shots and stuff. So I know that was a big influence. I mean, but I know when we were shooting, like at no point did I think we ever picked any specific filmmaker. I mean, it was such a crazy, hectic shoot that at a certain point we were just, both of us at different times were pulling shots out of our asses. So and at that point as a filmmaker, Lord knows you've seen it in something else. So I kind of leaned on Phil more because part of the reason I wanted to work with him is I loved his visual style for his movies. And that's the sort of thing I struggle with, is more the visual style of things. And I thought it'd be kind of fun to learn from him and see how he kind of figures it out. So, I used the Demolishers as my influence. There we go. How did he shoot that? Let's just do that.
Well, I'll never forget with Alistair on set with the lighting. I wanted more red in the kitchen. And I know we were fighting with the camera crew. And then I think the next day, Alistair, he found a copy of it, and he watched the movie twice and made notes. And then from there on, it was kind of, Alistair knew, didn't even have to talk to him. He just did his own thing with it.
It's hard to explain to people the kind of unmotivated light. Like, it's just, like I like to use Dario Argento's Suspiria or some of his movies as an example, where you have these insane light sources that don't make any sense whatsoever, but nobody questions it because you're just like, well, it looks cool. And we have a lot of that in For the Sake of Vicious. Like, there's red and blue lights in the house that you're like, where would that be coming from? It doesn't make any sense, but it doesn't matter. And the general audience who watches it just goes, you're just kind of there along for the ride. It's like, who cares where it comes from? It's just, it's a little.
The guy who realized that table was out of place. That's the guy that realizes it.
Yes. The one who's
those
like,
letters aren't on the fridge.
Yeah, exactly.
I think Blood Simple's another one too with Coen Brothers.
Yeah.
Blood Simple. That movie, you watch the lighting in that, and
that movie's awesome. That movie's amazing.
It's incredible. And I know if there was more movies shot to look like that. That'd be fantastic.
I know another big influence, and this is an obvious one because he's amazing, was Jeremy Saulnier with Blue Ruin, Green Room. Like, that guy's, like, just his style and his feel and his tone. I mean, obviously you can't replicate that because that's what he does. But even just to get, like, kind of in that same sort of mind space of that sort of, I mean, there's just, like, Blue Ruin and Green Room are so nihilistic and grim, and not even just the violence, like, tone-wise. You just feel dirty after watching it,
Green Room was one of my favorite movies that I watched that year when it came out. And, just from my experience being, I've gone on a few tours, I've been in that same situation. And I remember watching that and my heart rate was up when they go, like, cause I knew what the movie was, right?
Yes.
Like, read the synopsis, you have an idea. I wasn't going in completely blind, and I'd seen the trailer, but when they were going to the place, I was like, oh my God. I go, this is how it happens. Like it's so spot on with like a show bailed. We've got a guy that the promoter can't pay us, but his cousin knows a place that we can go and play a show for like $300 or whatever. And we can put money in the gas tank or whatever. And I was like, no, don't go there. And like, and I also felt, the guy who plays Worm, who is like the main kind of, I guess he's not the main villain. That's obviously Patrick Stewart, but the guy in the metal band that's in the green room.
Yeah.
I thought he's one of the best villains on screen in the last like 10 years. Like just so like, there's a lot of guys in metal that are like, you know, I knew a guy once that told me that, he's like, there's a lot of guys in metal that sing about like Satan and death and all these like scary things. He's like, and they'll watch a scary movie and sleep with the light on. I've always remembered that. And I just always remember that movie, especially being like, yeah, but there's also some, you know, there's bad people everywhere, right?
Yeah.
In every art form and whatever, and every occupation.
Yeah.
And I just thought that movie just hit the nail on the head with that. Like I was just such a visceral experience, right? So that's cool to hear that. That was kind of an influence.
Yeah, 100%.
Awesome. Speaking of influences, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring this up as well. But I had a quick question. Gabe, I know that you know, you'd sent me a list of just a bunch of photos as well. And I didn't actually get to use this one today, but I wanted to talk to you quickly about what it was like working with Henry Rollins. And you worked with him in one of your past features, In the House of Flies, which is actually hitting Tubi in the new year.
Nice.
We're looking, I think right now it's probably about March or April, but it should be on Tubi. And if you're not sure what Tubi is and you're listening and you're in Canada, go find Tubi. It's basically free Netflix. They've got a massive catalog of films up there, including I think over 5,000 horror films. So make sure you check them out. It's free. You just have to, there's ads and whatever, but it's massive in the States. Not too many people know about it up here in Canada, but if you go there, you can actually check out If a Tree Falls, which is one of the first projects that Reese and Gabe, our guests tonight, worked on. You can check that out for free. It's on Tubi. So check it out. I think it's tubi.tv and set up an account and it's free to watch. So, but anyway, getting back to this, Gabe, I got a photo here because I got to throw it up, man, because it's such a fucking cool photo. And I wanted to give it some time in the sun just because it's such a badass photo. But can you talk to us about, let's throw it up here. Yeah. I mean, like, look at these guys. Like,
that was when I was eating salad. Salad days.
Can you talk a little bit about that experience about working with, because that guy's he's a legend, right?
Yeah, man. He was dude, like it still pipes me that like it doesn't even feel like he was like, I feel like I look at that photo, I'm like, I don't even remember it. But it's amazing when you meet, I don't want to say your heroes or your role models or inspirations or whatever, but you're just meeting someone who, like, you know, as Henry Rollins is to thousands and millions of other people that you look up to, you know, with the music and art and just the way he, you know. And I remember I went to a few of his live shows, and at the end of one, I was like, Angus had the script. I was like, okay, I'm going to go back and tour bus and see if I can stalk him. And I remember meeting him outside. There was like only 5 people outside behind the venue. That's it. And it was just him standing there. I was like, this is fucking Henry Rollins. Like, why isn't it like more people? Finally, he's like very direct. Like he like, that's the thing with him, right? He's like, he doesn't put on an act. Like how he is. So like when it came my turn, it's like, hey man, he's like, hello. I'm like, hi Henry. I shake his hand. It's exactly what that is. I'm like, I'm just wondering how I can contact you. I have a script my friend wrote. We're making an independent film, and you know, I want to give it, see if, you know, I don't know what I said. And he's like, just email me, Ned. I'm like, what's your email? He's like, it's on my website. I'm like, you get that? That's your email? He goes, yeah, that's my email. So like the email on his website is legitimate as email. I'm like, okay. So I went home that night, sent him an email. He got back to me like 2 days later. And then his, I think Heidi May got involved, and I sent her the script, and she's like, yeah, Henry likes it, blah, blah, blah. And then his agent got on board, and then long story short, we flew down for 2 days. And I remember being nervous, just balls to the wall nervous. Cause like, number one, you're not at some shitty underground recording studio in LA. You're at the LA Margarita Mix.
Well, number one, it's Henry fucking Rollins.
Right. So I remember like it has like a fountain. It felt like a spa in there. And I remember going in, like we were like half an hour early. Like we were early. And I remember going up to the desk lady and she's like, I'm like, oh, we're here for a session. She's like, oh yeah. She goes, Henry's here. He's at the back of the hall. Glass door on your right. You can go down. I'm like, oh, he's here? And I remember turning around to Chad and Angus. I'm like, dude, he's like, here, we got to go back. They're like, okay, man, let's go. So I'm like, I remember walking down this hallway, and there's this door. It's like half open. And I'm like, this is the door. This is the door that Henry Rollins is in. We're going to like work with him. And I remember before entering, I remember seeing the crack because the door is just open a little bit. And he was sitting there, and I could see him through the crack sitting there. And he's on his laptop, and he's drinking a fucking Diet Coke. And the thing that's going through my head is, he drinks Diet Coke. Like I
drink Diet Coke.
I'm like, that's so weird. Like he drinks Diet Coke, and you're thinking like, oh, that's, like, okay, he drinks Diet Coke. And I remember knocking. He's like, yeah, come in. And I remember we entered and we sat at this table, and he talks like you can't even get a word in. Like we sat down, bing bada boom. We start talking about simple stuff, LA, whatever, and then we started talking about movies. He's a huge movie buff. Started talking about like Heat, and then we went in the studio, and it was pretty easy. Like it's when you go in the studio with Henry Rollins and you have the script and he has the audio guy there, you kind of just let him do his thing,
right,
and say it because that's what you're there for. He's the professional. He's been doing this double, triple times us. So there was a few things with lines like he would ask once in a while, like I'm like, yeah, do it. He already knew what to do. Like he knew I'm going to do this next one slower. I'm going to do this next one like this. I'm going to do this. You didn't have to tell him, right? And most people at that level are so professional that they just automatically do it. You're there just to kind of supervise, get what you can get, and then you leave. So that was really interesting. I remember they came in with salsa and chips, and I remember just like eating chips and salsa with like Henry Rollins as we were talking like about music and movies, and it was just like
fucking California.
It was just, yeah. But that's a thing when you're and then that was it. It's it was
awesome. Well, you know what? I'm gonna throw this photo up.
There's a behind the scenes video on the YouTube with it actually of us in the studio. I think it's on there.
Yeah, and it was on the DVD. I know that.
Yeah.
So if anyone had the In the House of Flies DVD, it's the special features have that trip down to LA when you went down and met Rollins. So I'm just gonna throw this photo up on the screen one more time. Look at these guys. I mean, I think it's a challenge to our audience out there. If you need to get Gabe a gift or want to give him a gift, just get him this photo on a T-shirt. It'd be fantastic. And then or get him two, and then he'll give one to Henry next time you see him, right, Gabe?
Hope he doesn't remember me.
Listen, I think a great place to leave it, guys. Thanks so much for taking the time tonight. I know it's a lot to ask, but listen, before we go, what can you tell us about? You're obviously on this press tour. You're promoting For the Sake of Vicious, dropping on Shudder this Thursday. January 6th, and of course available on through Raven Banner Entertainment as well. Check out their website at Raven Banner. Is it Raven Banner? I think it's ravenbanner.com. I don't have it in front of me here, but or I'm gonna pick up a copy of For the Sake of Vicious on Blu-ray at Sunrise or Cinema One, or and you can get it on Amazon, I believe, too, right, guys?
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
And iTunes, you can rent it. Yep.
Yeah, rent it digitally, iTunes. And it's on VOD as well. So, but speaking, any plans for anything coming up next, or where are you guys sitting with future projects after you kind of get done the tour with this one? Nothing.
I was expecting to go first.
Yeah, I want to go first. I should throw it. Sorry, that's my fault. That's my fault. You want to lead with that, Gabe? Tell us what you got coming up next.
It's just development time. You're coming up with ideas. You're trying to write scripts. It's that time after every movie ends. You go back to the drawing board, especially when you're independent. It's not like someone's gonna like, hey, do you want to go direct this movie now? Like, Well, at least for me, it's not. So it's like, you're back to square one again, essentially. So there's a few ideas that, varying degrees of budgets. You got the movie that you can go make with your fucking iPhone next week. You know what I mean? And then you got your other movie and then the other movie. So it's just like, I have those. So now it's just a matter of like developing them a little bit more and then seeing what bites.
And can people, how can people get in touch if they want to reach out? Just through your Instagram is fine?
Yeah, Instagram.
Okay, perfect. And Reese, what about yourself? You got anything on the back burner that's getting moved up to the front of the stove?
Well, I mean, first off, I want to go back to the commercial that you played right before we started. You pointed out the fantastic artwork on the Blu-ray, and I wanted to give a quick shout out to the artist.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
It's SG Posters, and her, I'm going to mispronounce her name, is Eileen Steinbach. So you can find her on Instagram at SG_posters. She did this for us. She does a ton of posters for a bunch of films. I guess 2020 was one of her most successful years, and we were just so happened to be lucky that they commissioned her to do kind of a special edition Criterion-esque cover for us. And she was amazing to work with because she did a first round. Then we had a great meeting with her where Gabe and I kind of pitched our ideas and what we thought the movie was about. And she came back at us with those, and we were like, holy crap, she's phenomenal. So Eileen Steinbach, SG Posters, look her up on Instagram and Twitter. She's incredible. And she supports a bunch of indie local artists, and she loves working on all different kinds of movies, budgets, low budget, mid budget. It's all there. So
yeah, her Instagram's pretty amazing. Like you can get kind of lost in her visuals on it.
Yeah, and this is a fantastic, just for our viewers at home, just a fantastic piece of art here on the front. Did she do did she do this artwork as well, or was it just the slipcase?
Just the slipcase.
Just the slipcase. Okay, yeah. So, but I just feel that this makes, like, this is why physical media is so awesome. I think these were limited edition as well, so you can only get them. I was fortunate enough to grab this from the Raven Banner booth at Frightmare in the Falls. Shout out to Sean. Thanks, buddy. And I know how much time and effort he puts into kind of corralling all that stuff together as well.
Absolutely.
So it's a really, really sweet package, and definitely if you can find that one, definitely pick it up because it's a good price point, and it's definitely worth having in your collection for sure. And lots of deleted. Let's see, we got director commentary, cast commentary, deleted scenes with commentary, and then some behind the scenes, and I think it looks like some special effects featurettes on here as well. So for the sake of Vicious, out now in Canada on Raven Banner, make sure you pick up that physical copy if that's your bag, or rent it on VOD or digital, or wherever you rent your movies. And of course, if you're in the States, and Reese, you said Australia, New Zealand, the UK as well, for Shudder this Thursday, January 6th, correct?
Yep, absolutely.
Perfect. Awesome. Okay, well, thanks a lot, guys. Really, really do appreciate you making the time. We've eclipsed the 2-hour mark. I don't think anyone else has done that. I don't even think Chad did that. So we'll have to take a look. I'll let you guys know. But thanks so much for jumping on and doing this. We really do appreciate it. Please stick around after we go off the air. Okay. I want to ask you guys a couple of other questions. Once we stop going live here. But again, to just make sure you follow Gabe and Reese on Instagram at Gabe Carrer at Reveneshen. I guess that's how you would say it. That's their handles. We've been posting on our
Never even noticed that, Reese. It's pretty awesome.
Not bad, eh?
Yeah.
Take that Henry Rollins photo. Okay, let's throw it up one more time. There we go.
There we go.
And of course, make sure you check out these guys' previous work as well. So check out For the Sake of Vicious. It's an awesome film. But also make sure you go and check out Defective, as well as the Demolisher, as well as In the House of Flies and If a Tree Falls, which is available on Tubi as well for free. So thanks everyone else for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. I'm your host Benner from Black Fawn Distro, and we do. If you are tuning in live, I just want to say thank you everyone for their support over the last year. A happy new year to everyone out there, and thank you as well for all of your questions tonight. Guys, anything to add before we go?
No, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to help us out here and support us. And we've known each other a long time, all of us, and it's just cool that we're all still going in some form or another, even during this craziness. And it's just great to kind of feel the love and have the support. So we really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, hey, this was super awesome. Yeah, for sure.
No problem, guys. Well, the purpose of this show was just to kind of, talk to people that were in the film industry and kind of share stories about filmmaking and passing that on to other filmmakers and, just having a good time while doing it. So I'm happy that you guys were on the show and it was awesome to catch up with you. And hey, I learned some stuff as well. And yeah, for sure. So anyway, to all of our other all of our viewers out there, thanks again for tuning in. Please remember to follow us, share, and subscribe, and check us out on Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. We do broadcast every 2 weeks on live on those platforms, and then we retransmit through all the major podcast platforms, including Spotify and Apple Podcasts, or wherever you pick up your favorite podcasts. So make sure you check us out on there. And thanks again, everyone, for tuning in. We'll see you in a couple of weeks with our next guest on Black Fawn Distro's Takeover Tuesday. Take care. And that does it for another episode of Black Fawn Distro's Takeover Tuesday. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, please remember to like, follow, share, and subscribe, and help us spread the word about the program and our incredible guests. If you're interested in grabbing some more information about Black Fawn Distribution or want to check out our film titles and merchandise, you can find us online at blackfawndistribution.com. We'd also like to thank our sponsors: Wellington Brewery's Hellas Lager, Deadly Grounds Coffee, Twisted Teas, and of course, Black Fawn Distribution. Just a reminder, you can always catch Black Fawn Distro's Takeover Tuesday live on Facebook, YouTube, and our other social media platforms. Or pick up one of our retransmissions on any of the major streaming platforms. Until next time, I'm your host Benner from Black Fawn Distro, and we'll see you soon.